Walker Griffon, apparently not doing his job, asks if we are ready to bring you more implicit bias radio. And the answer is yes. Walker, are you going to learn one day? I mean, you've been around over a year now,
I don't feel like
right?
cutting y'all off when y'all are talking.
Hey, boys got manners.
He's got to learn, though, that when he's behind the board, brother, you run the show. Right?
He was just raised right.
He was.
He's very polite.
He was.
Earlier,
I'm
he
aware
was
this-
calling me. I'd ask him something. Yes, sir. No, sir. I said, I know I'm old, but come on, really.
No, you're that old, Renee.
Oh, man.
Yeah, until he has
That
that
just
first
makes
whiskey.
me feel old.
Once
now.
he has that first whiskey, it changes up a little bit. And so it should.
Everything should change up just a little with a weekly whiskey, which we have. Horse Soldier, it is a green here on the show, the Morse Whiskey rating code, which I think that's the first time I've never explained it for those who might have missed it.
I mean, it's only been 4.5 years we've been doing this. If they don't
Do you realize
if they don't know it yet, come on.
Do you realize how close to 5 years we are for this show?
It's
We are getting really,
It's
really
amazing.
close. Yeah. So for those who don't know, if you might be new to the show, the Morse Whiskey rating code: red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I would only drink it if it was free. Green, I would buy it. Blue, I would seek this out. This Horse Soldier straight bourbon whiskey at 87 proof comes in at a green. It's a 2-3 split. Tasty, easy drinker, lots and lots to like. So that being said, you should always have a weekly whiskey in your hand when you are solving the problems of the world. I mean, why not, right? What better way to deal with the idiocy that is 2025 than through a weekly whiskey, which is completely legal, by the way. So, gentlemen, let's dive in and let's start here. Again, every now and then I throw you a curveball, but I know that both of you are up to date on this topic. I don't know that Walker is. We'll let him chime in if he is. But oh my goodness. Signal is an app that is an encrypted text messaging platform from end to end. It is actually authorized for government use. And in the past week, we come to find out, and this is, and I'm going to put this in verbal air imaginary quotes. This is the story. Let me reframe this. This might be a story as opposed to the story.
I think that's more appropriate.
A story that we have gotten is that a group of very high-ranking U.S. officials were in a Signal group chat. By Signal, I mean on this encrypted end-to-end platform. They didn't set it up. Their staff members set it up. There's like 20 plus people on this chat. And what we know today is the information that was there was nothing classified. It was basically situational updates of what was happening. It did not say to whom. It did not say where. It did not give real specifics. It gave some generalities of what was going to happen along a timeline.
I think that, well, from what I've heard of it, the only specific that was there was that action will take place in approximately 2 hours. That was it. That it's not like, things are going to get blowed up or nothing. Action will take place in approximately 2 hours.
Well, I think it did.
I think there were some that said
talked about Apache strikes and talked about
Yes.
initial strikes. And
But it
no-
also didn't say Apache missile strike or
Correct.
Apache support ground troops. It said nothing like that.
The important thing: no coordinates, no
Nope.
maps, no details. This was an update, like Hegseth said.
Keep going down the list of things that this wasn't, Grant.
Correct. Yeah, it's a story. Don't get me wrong. Okay, it's a boo boo.
Well, hold
By any
on.
means, but I use that terminology correctly because it's a boo boo. It's something that definitely shouldn't have happened. And from this side of the aisle, the thing you need to learn about this is they're saying, look, this was an error. We admit it. From the other side in the previous administration, you never heard, yes, this was a mistake, and we're seeing what we can do to get to the bottom of it and try to not make it happen again and learn from it. It's kind of refreshing, but this is a boo boo.
I want to take this even farther
Kind of a high
because
level boo boo.
I'm not convinced this is a boo-boo.
Oh,
A boo-boo is an accident.
all right.
Yeah.
An accident means it wasn't intended to happen. So what happened was, with a story that we are getting, is that a reporter from The Atlantic. And for those who don't know what The Atlantic is, I'm going to put this in context and I'm going to ask you, please don't believe us on this. The owner of The Atlantic is really good friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. Please don't believe me, but that puts into perspective who The Atlantic is and how they report.
Yes, and Ghislaine Maxwell was Jeffrey Epstein's assistant.
Correct. Ring the bell. Thank you for connecting the dot for those who might not have. So now I'm going to connect the dot even farther. The reporter who allegedly was, mistakenly included on this group chat on Signal is the same reporter who made up the suckers and losers story that was completely fabricated, quotes taken out of context, alleged to have been said by Donald Trump that didn't happen. Same reporter. So you're telling me that a group of our most high-level leaders who jump on an encrypted chat from end to end, where they are getting significant information, but it's just status updates on a timeline. All of a sudden, we get the headline from The Atlantic, and it's a major story everywhere. Again, a story, maybe not the story. It's a major story that war plans were somehow, through some haphazard, lackadaisical security reference, included to this reporter.
Well, I mean, to start with, how did the reporter get on the stream? Who put him there? Because all the head people that they talk to, they don't know this guy or don't have contact with this guy.
Allegedly.
Well, that's what they're saying, that they didn't. So that means one of the staffers of one of these people,
You would think,
put him on
might have.
to set up, maybe?
Well, so I'm going to give some context here, because one of the things that I find incredibly thought-provoking is the timing of this, and I'm going to call it what it is, this leak of information. Not 3 days before this story breaks, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, came out publicly and said, we have leaks in the Department of Defense. We're going to find them. And all of a sudden, you're telling me that a left-wing creative writer who doubles as a news reporter somehow is mistakenly included? This to me screams of canary trap. This to me screams of, we're going to put the bait out there and see who takes it. And I think they found their canary. I believe, and there's too much here that says that this was the case. First of all, now, by the way, The Atlantic is now walking back, because first of all, the headline was war plans. Then it became attack plans. Wait a minute, hold on. War plans is a very different headline than attack plans. What's the truth here? Then you have the reporter, the day that he starts all of a sudden making media rounds left and right when this story breaks. He's on every single left of center news outlet, and I use that term news very loosely, but he's on every single left of center outlet, and he goes to say there's a covert CIA agent who was named in this chat. And I'm not naming them because I don't want to out them. And we find out 48 hours later that the person who was named is not a CIA agent. It's the chief of staff of one of the people who's actually on the chat and supposed to be on the chat. I'm going to give you the bigger one. And this is what really annoys me, because I went and I read everything that The Atlantic released, all the chats that they released. And there's a couple problems. The first problem that I have is this. At the very beginning, the construction of the chat group, everyone introduced themselves. In other words, you had, hey, Hegseth here, Vance here.
The roll call.
Correct. So you're telling me that this reporter, alleged, this fiction writer, watched all of these people introduce themselves, saw the first portion of the conversation and didn't go, I'm maybe not supposed to be here. Because I don't know about you, but there's a certain amount of information I don't want to know. Because if, and this is a big one, if the information was truly classified, I believe we prosecuted people for having classified information they weren't supposed to have.
No, they tried to.
Attempted to.
They
Yeah.
tried to prosecute.
Well, they tried to prosecute one, and they said the other was too much of a mental potato to be able to be prosecuted.
He wouldn't.
As that's documented.
Right,
And
correct.
please don't believe me on this. Go look at the special prosecutor who looked into.
Jack Smith.
Yep. Go look at that. No, it wasn't Jack Smith who looked into the Biden docs.
No, that
It
was
was
the
a
one going
different
after
one.
Trump.
Correct. Correct.
That is true. He was
So-
the one going after Trump.
But
I
the-
can't remember the guy going after Biden.
But the point here is this. The point here is you have a reporter who should have known he wasn't supposed to be there. The story should have just been, I got included in a chat that I wasn't supposed to be on. Instead, he chose to stay on that. Instead, he chose to stay there. Think about that. Second
Well,
of all,
he's curious.
second of all-
Inquiring minds want to know.
Second of all, he lies saying this is a CIA agent when the chief of staff of one of the secretaries in the United States government in the cabinet, those people are easy to find if you do 12 seconds of research. If you type that name in, it's going to come up. Third, and this is maybe the most telling, it's really interesting that some of the quote unquote screenshots that were shared of the texts that this reporter, this fictional storyteller has through his Signal app, most of them are time-stamped. Some of them, miraculously, just weren't. In other words, you have things that don't align with timelines as the story was told, and you have timestamps that might have been erased or not included on purpose. Which means if they were, now you are publishing doctored text strings. Look, to me,
Yeah, something reeks.
there's just, it smells.
Yeah.
It smells like 3 p.m. in a Turkish bathhouse where the air condition has gone out
Ew.
in 90-degree heat. It reeks. It smells bad. It smells horrific. And something's not right here.
Well, I mean, that's typical. I mean, we have been seeing stuff like that go on for the past 6 years. Just things like this, one side accusing the other and then generating
And
things.
I'm glad you said that, because there's one more thing here. There's one more thing that I'm like, you're joking. But they're not.
Oh, it's Robert Hur was the prosecutor.
Robert Hur, correct.
Yes.
The,
By the
Robert
way.
Hur was the prosecutor who was prosecuting Biden, allegedly,
said
who
that
failed
he-
to prosecute Biden
Right.
because he said he's too much of a potato for anybody to even try and convict him.
Correct.
What's really interesting to me is within 24 hours of this story breaking, there is a lawsuit filed in Washington, D.C. in federal district court. Want to take a guess who the judge who miraculously pulled this case is?
Would that be the same guy who has issued an order to stop the flights of the immigrants?
Same guy who not only issued an order to stop flights of immigrants, same guy who withheld all of the information and the release of the Hillary Clinton documents until after the 2016 election, when they were ordered to be released before the 2016 election.
Yeah.
You can talk about possibility versus probability. The probability of all of these stars lining up that quickly and lawsuits ready to go in 24 hours.
The government doesn't act that quickly.
Look, but what bothers me though, that what you brought up, and I didn't know a couple of days ago, Hegseth had released that they thought they had a leak. Why show your hand that quickly? If they were setting up a trap, I don't like the fact that Hegseth actually brought everybody's attention to the fact that there was something amiss.
I actually do.
Yeah.
Because it tells you just how dumb these people are.
We
know,
can always rely on that.
We
For
can't.
sure.
You know what else you can always rely on? You can always rely on implicit bias to come back. Again, right after this break, Implicit Bias Radio back on the air.